Welcome, welcome. Today, what has really been on my heart is to talk about the season of our assertiveness starts now, and the season of indecisiveness stops now. Okay? So this is the season of our assertiveness. Okay? The season of our assertiveness. The season where you know what you want, you know how to get it, and you know how to put your foot on the ground, and you know how to not just compromise, but on the flip side, you know how to be respectful, how to be just, and how to be fair while you get whatever it is that you get. Because most of us, how I actually got it is so many of us are oscillating on the journey of being sometimes aggressive about what we want, and we misplace or we actually confuse assertiveness with aggression or being aggressive. And so many of us have developed that thing, and luckily enough here where we are, it's mostly the ladies. Most of the ladies have thought for me to be masculine and to be too powerful, that is how I get everything I want in the world. I don't know whether you have seen it happen, where women feel like, you know what, I don't even want to put on dresses, I want to put on pants so that I can show you that what you can do, I can do. Not knowing that your role as a woman is actually, as a nurturer, to be soft, to be calm, but to be assertive with all the calmness and the softness, so that you can be able to get not only what you want in the world, but what your descendants deserve. Because we are not just fighting for us, we are not just fighting for money, we're not just fighting for position, we're not just fighting, but we are fighting in the fight to leave a legacy that is clean and a legacy that is worth passing on. And that legacy, it can only be passed on. I want you to tell me, I don't know, I want you to just look back, and I've just thought about this. Look back at people that have passed on legacies, okay, that we are still talking about today. I want you to tell me, how, I don't know how the flip side of assertiveness, whether they were just passive about their lives. I need you to be able to tell me, if you know one person, if you can see one person that was a passive about their life and they passed on a legacy. So what does that tell us? That in order to pass any kind of legacy, because when we read the Bible, when we talk about the blessings, we know that the blessings go until the 4th generation, and we know that even the curse or the same side goes until the 4th generation. So that means that if we are going to pass on anything worthwhile in our lives, in our times, and in this season, if we have not been assertive, then we should be able to declare and say that this is the season of my assertiveness, that now, going forward, I am not going to be passive in my own life and what happens in my life. That means that you critique every decision. That means you decide every outcome. That means you foresee, you discern, you pray. You get it? That means you know that this is the outcome that I want. The outcome that I want is that I will pass on a legacy. That outcome that I want is that my name shall be spoken about to the 4th generation and to the descendants that are coming thereafter. That they will say that that woman was blessed, that man was blessed, that because of her we were able to go to school. Because of her, let me tell you, people have practiced assertiveness even without seeing blackboards, even without going to school. Because some of us think the only way to gain confidence is going to school or speaking too much English. Do you see that sometimes we misinterpret? But people have been assertive. I think I gave you an example, and some of these things I'm just thinking as I go, because I had prepared something totally different, and on my heart, God dropped something totally different. And I'm just getting this as I go, that my mother, when she stood still and said, not on my watch, my children are not going to be crucified. They are not going to die or to be sacrificed. That is a person that is assertive, that does not say that, you know what, I don't know this place, I don't know the surrounding, I don't know the language, so we are at their mercies. Whatever they want to do, let them do. And some of us, we pray that prayer of salvation as in, God save me, but God expects you to do a certain part so that he can come and do his part. because he's only going to save you through wisdom, and through wisdom that you have practiced through assertiveness. So even if he gives you wisdom and you cannot practice it in assertiveness, then he has given you nothing. So this is going to apply in our callings. It's going to apply in every sphere of our influence, in our homes, in our relationships, in our marriages. It is going to appear or apply in every season of our lives. That if we are starting a season where we are declaring that this is the season of my assertiveness, that means that every wisdom that is going to be given to you, let me tell you, even when money comes into your hands and it is not handled with assertiveness, it meanders, it loses track. The reason as to why we have avenues that, you know what, I want to save, I want to invest. And the reason as to why it's only that 10% of people that are able to stand by their plans is because they have decided to be assertive towards who? Towards themselves. They're like, I'm going to create this discipline and I am going to save this amount of money. Before I even spend anything, I am going to save this amount of money. Or I am going to invest this amount of money. So even if money came into your hands, we have seen people that win lottery. We have seen people that have been given a lot of money. And where did they end up? On the streets, begging for the next meal. Why? Because in as much as we want to be assertive to other people, the first person that you should be assertive to is you. You should say, this is, I stamp my feet. If I say I am going to create a discipline and this discipline is about fasting and I get hungry at around 3 p.m., then you're like, you know what? I know what I want. And in this season, if fasting is going to get me closer to God, if it is going to get me closer to my answers, so be it. Let the pangas of hunger cut me all they want, but in the right time I will break. I am not going to break before my time. That is a person that is assertive, because we want to be assertive to other people but not assertive to ourselves. Because we are presented by chances every time, every new day, to be able to make that decision. Now, when we make feeble decisions, shaky decisions, decisions without discipline, is nothing. It's a lost cause. Okay? So, assertiveness. I want us to be able to just walk this journey together. The other thing that I thought about is when you are desperate, when people are desperate, I think we have seen desperate people in the world. Because the reason as to why some people are not assertive is because they are desperate. And because you are desperate, you don't have a standard. So you don't know what to expect. You don't know what to ask for. That is why someone will say, any man that comes, you know, like you have not set a standard, okay? You have not set a standard. For example, in my life, all I wanted was a person that is a leader, a person that is godly, a person that, you know, serves God, that I will serve God with, a person that is family oriented, a person. Do you know how many people came? As in, the devil brought a lot of fakes, a lot of quacks, you know, duplicates, you know, everyone saying all the sweet, nice English and, you know, parking nice cars and wanting to give you heaven on earth. But the thing is, if I were desperate, and I will tell you, there was a time I nearly lost it because I was at the verge of tipping over in desperation. And guess what? That desperation was because of a revenge. Because so many things cause us to be desperate. And so I did not stand by my prayer, my wishes, my wanting. I was like, you know what? I think I should get this over and done with. And then, in the same spirit, you're also wanting to be controlled by people's opinions. Do you see what derails us away from assertiveness? People's opinions. What will they say? Okay, and then you're also looking at the time frame. Now the time is also ticking, it is also going. And then you're looking at the revenge. Okay, kabachirabe, but you're the one taking the poison and you're hoping the other person dies. While you're taking the poison, you're placing yourself in front of a bullet and thinking, oh, but they will cry a lot when I get shot. My friend, you're the one getting shot and you're the one dying. And no one is going to think about you 2 weeks after you're married. People will be on their merry way, creating families and having fun and doing parties. Okay? I feel like I have given you a lot of nuggets in just these few moments. I feel it. That because of my own, and just using my personal story, let me tell you, I was about to get married before getting married. Sorry? About to get married before getting married. But guess what? Every night, whenever I left work, I used to pray in my car while I drove on the bypass. And every day, until now, whenever I drive on the bypass, I remember the prayers. And I'm like, my life is a result of prayer. It has been nothing short of a miracle that God has performed. I remember I would pray in tongues. I would pray about my destiny. I would pray about the people that are going to be touched by my life. I would pray about everything that I really wanted to gain in my life. But because of desperation that came in, because most times I've told you that I never minded about how old I was before I even got married. But guess what? When you are at the verge of a breakthrough, the devil will whisper into your ears. The same year I got married, I was about to get married to another person. Because of, when you're desperate, you do not have a standard. When you're desperate, you do not have a measurement of what you really want. It's possible you know what you really want, but now you have gotten a compromising spirit that tells you it's possible you might not hit 100, but it's okay if you hit 10%, and then you will settle with 10%. Because a person that is assertive, even to themselves, is a person, and let me tell you, it turned around. I might not be able to tell you, I will get a day and tell you the whole story because you're going to laugh your hearts out. But the way it turned around is when I took my power back. And how I took my power back is I stopped thinking about what people will say. And I stopped thinking about revenge. And I started thinking about my own happiness and what I wanted in my life. So I was like, I want happiness. This is a copy of happiness. It is not the real. I want permanent happiness. And permanent happiness takes us to be assertive, uncompromising, and knowing what it is that we want out of life. Okay? So, assertiveness, a standard means there are certain things you don't accept. And this is the year, you know, some of us have not been in the habit of taking leaps of faith, okay? Because if you are a person that takes the leaps of faith, then you are a person who will not stay complaining about a thing that you're not willing to change. Okay? Because then you're like, okay, I know that I have created a standard. That this year, this is the much that I want to earn. Okay? That this year, this is how much I want to grow in my industry and my calling. That this year, this is what I am going to put on. Do you know that we even make decisions when it comes to things to put on? I see people that have money but putting on rags. And I have seen people that are working with a smaller budget but putting on point, making sober decisions. So that means you need to know what to accept. Not everyone that actually comes, you know how people move around with clothes, selling clothes, but because they are your friend, when they bring whatever they bring, madoa, you buy because you're buying from your friend. But it's possible you can look through and you're like, hey, you have nice clothes, but this year I am not putting on madoa. Yeah, I refused. I'm not putting on madoa-doa. I decided I'm going to be slick and nice. And if it means buying one cloth in 6 months, so be it. Because then I will buy it, I will trust it. Recently, I was looking at my wardrobe and I put aside everything I treasured and everything that I didn't treasure. And guess what? Everything I treasured, I invested in expensively, and I took time that I would shop once in a year to be able to get those pieces. So everything that came in as kwara, you know, easy buy, nice, you know, quick buy, it's something that I put on once and sometimes I don't put on. So there is a lady that irons and puts them in the guest room somewhere. Everything that stays in the guest room is something that I don't like. I mean, I will remember it once in a while when I feel like, do you know there are those seasons as ladies where you feel like you have put on weight? You've not put on weight, but you just it's in the cycle, and you just feel like maybe I should just drag some. Should just put on something and move along. I told you how Tim used to tell me when I was pregnant, even if you cover yourself with a bed sheet, we can move. Like I was figureful that nothing could fit me. Okay, so you realize that we respect things that we have paid a price for, and we knew exactly what we expected. So there is a standard somewhere. Okay? That is why sometimes you'll be like, when if nakasente kanga, I will go to the other woman that plaits nice hair. But for now, it's okay. I can use this one. You get it? So we also we know duplicates. We know things that are not the right things. But because of situations, we're like, I am willing to compromise, okay? But I don't want us to live in a mode of compromising. I want us to live in a mode where we have standards and we are moving with those standards. And sometimes we confuse Jesus' humility with passiveness. Jesus was humble, but he was not passive. For those of you that are Bible readers, he was very humble, but not passive in his own life. He was very passionate and very assertive. Very passionate and very... You remember when they said he went into the synagogue and he flogged them and he turned the tables around, as in he should have come, you know, I'm the Son of God, you know, get out, oh please, oh, you know, use those nice words. Because why? He's a leader and he's going to be talked about that by the whole world, so they don't want to taint their name. Your assertiveness is not tainting your name. Your assertiveness is spelling what you can and what you can't tolerate, and whose circle you're going to be in and who is going to be in your circle. Because you're not supposed to be tolerated. You're supposed to be celebrated. So when Jesus comes and says, you have made my Father's house a den of thieves, but it was supposed to be a house of prayer. He flogs them, turns the tables around, all the shillings and all the monies and all the gold and everything is spilled around. He releases the cages of the doves and the cages of every animal that they had brought around. But what was that? That was assertiveness, because they knew that it was the house of prayer, but they didn't do the right thing. So some of us, we are even in friendships or relationships or surroundings where people know what you stand for, but because you've not been assertive, as in they know. Have you seen balokole beba joga? Oh, yo mulokole nene nga bagala kumulinya kumumwa. Kubanga mulokole. I don't know whether you've seen such people. That one is a pastor, and they want to speak all weird things in your presence because they know that the mark of a pastor is to tolerate every nonsense. No. You being a Christian, or you being an adult, or you being from whichever religious denomination you come from, you being too understanding and nice does not mean that you're going to tolerate every nonsense. So even if they don't know it, you spell it. That is why I usually say that we teach the people in our lives how to behave in our lives. And we tell them, you don't go past this. Okay, so assertiveness is a virtue that we must be able to grow. Okay, and here when he was overturning tables, I believe that was like corrective teaching. You know, sometimes we do corrective teaching to so many people in our lives. By the way, you can do corrective teaching to your children, to your spouse, to your boss. okay? It doesn't mean that you're going to abuse them, but it means that you know what the fair point is or the right point is, and respectfully and politely, you are able to defend it and say, this is what I think is true. This is what I think is right. So I'm not going to close my eyes and pretend I have not seen it. I have seen it, and we must be able to do the right thing, but with respect and polite. Assertiveness does not mean that you go and abuse. It does not mean that you should go and be aggressive. It means you know what you want and you're able to stand for what you want. Because some of the things, and we're going to talk about them, that assertiveness helps us with is it alleviates stress. Do you know that some of us have stomached so many things that we are not supposed to stomach, or stand so many things that we are not supposed to stand, and we've ended up being stressed? But the person that is doing those things to us does not know. For them it's okay, but for you, you are stressed. You are under a heavy burden of stress. Instead of saying that, I do not want this. And I felt it when Coach Fiona was praying and said, and I have received the same word, that in some seasons it's okay to live. That if what you want to be done cannot be done in its rightfulness, it's okay to live, to vacate certain spaces. Because then you can never grow in such spaces. Unless you feel the need, unless you feel, and you will feel it in your heart. Your heart does not lie to you. Your intuition will never lie to you, okay? So many of us have betrayed us. But do you remember, even when it comes to Jesus and the disciples, I don't know how many of you have read that segment, when they asked him, who will betray you? Because he talked about being betrayed, and then someone else asked, who? Do you remember? Anyone would have said, you know, those are hard conversations, we should not talk about them. But do you know that Jesus showed them who was going to betray? He was saying that if I dip this bread and give it to someone, that is the person that is going to betray me. That means that he had the audacity to point a finger and say, I know, you are the one that is going to. How many of us have not even had the audacity to tell people, you are stressing me? You are a stress factor. And I don't think I want to die young because of high blood pressure and wrinkles on my face before they should come, because I can be able to kutundula you out of my life. I love you, but I'm sorry, I can love you from a distance. You don't necessarily have to be hugging and kissing for you to know that I love you. So assertiveness says that you were privileged to know my inner information, to know my secrets, but the moment you opened your mouth and told and shared with the whole world, I am cutting off the tap that supplies my secret information and my inner life. So off you go. And some people, after some time, they will ask themselves, there is a verse in the Bible that says that, what did you see mountains to leap while going backwards? As in, they saw the greatness of God and they just say, so some people, I have talked about repositioning relationships in our lives. Repositioning. Sometimes we need to reposition while bringing forward, and sometimes we need to reposition while taking further away. Repositioning while taking further away is the hardest thing on earth. But it takes you being assertive to know that, by the way, this is the season of my assertiveness, and I know what I want, I know my standards, and this person does not fit my criteria, does not fit my standard. We do it all the time in human resource. And we do it all the time without knowing in our personal lives, okay? So one of the things that, assertiveness helps us with is to take away stress and then resentment. You know, how many people, have you seen people in relationships, resentment building up, but they're saying, you know, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to talk about this because when I talk about it, how will it be understood? You know, what will... And sometimes the reason as to why we are not assertive, tweguya nyo. Or kweguya, wanting people or needing people in your life is okay, because I think I've talked about the kinds of people that we need in our lives. But okweguye nyo beranga gamba, webetali sijja kusa, I am not going to live without their presence. And let me tell you, you have armed them. You have turned the pistol and given it to them, and now you're at their mercies. You're saying hands up, and they're saying lala chini, and you're sleeping down. They're saying every sort of thing. They're now dishing out commands. Why? Because you have shown them that without you, I cannot breathe. There is that song I think we've all heard about, that says that my head is underwater but I'm breathing just fine. As in, that person had gotten to a breaking point of, you know what, even if I live because of air, it's okay. If you were my air, it's okay, get out. I will suffocate but I will live just fine. And sometimes we have to get to such places. We rise with people, and sometimes our downfall is also with people. So now you choose what you want. Do you want to keep rising? Do you want to raise an army that knows what they want, the influence, the impact, that earns, that, you know, changes the world? Or you still want to dwell amongst those that are pulling you down constantly? Or you are the kind that is also pulling other people down? Woe unto you if you're that kind of person, okay? And especially if God places you in a place of power or a place where people look up to you. You should be able to be very careful with every word that comes out of your mouth and every action that actually comes into you. The other thing is the seething anger. Do you know the seething anger? Do you know why abantu bogole butono tono ne batolotoma? They speak beneath their. They even have clenched teeth. So you don't even, sometimes you'll ask, what have you said? Of course, they're not going to tell you. But they have walked away, and for them, they're getting this fulfillment of, but it's not even fulfillment, because tochimugambye. Boba musajja nnyo chimugambe. Boba mukyale nnyo kyogere. But now that you've not been able to say it, you're dying with anger. Why? Because you do not have set standards and you are not assertive. You remember when you were young, I don't know whether it happened to you, but all the time I used to be punished for my sister's wrongdoing. My sister is the one that follows me. But she was a confused confuser, like a confused confuser. Up to now, I usually tell her, you know. So if the utensils are not clean, to the extent that even if the food is not konye, the maid would not take any blame. I'm the one who would take the blame. But a person that is assertive is one that says, and after that, I will go to them and I'll be like, whatever has been told to me, I will help you. I will help you make sure that I cook that food and it is nice. But if it does not come out nice, I remember there is a time my mother to this day does not know, I bought food twice. As in, I used to keep my own money. She bought food and the maid wasted it. And I had to buy food just to make sure I cover up, because I knew I was the one that was going to be punished, because she was a no-nonsense woman. But assertiveness demands that you actually say you allocated roles. So if mine was to wash the clothes for everyone in the house or cleaning, and she is supposed, you know, but these days, your children will say that. They will say, you bought me a red ball. So if my brother, that's what Ariella will say. My car is red and his car is blue. So if he loses it or if he tears it down, it's his business. You give him, you know those things of okusasira abato. Okay, you give him so that he can play. I was like, no. To the extent, she will even sleep with it in bed. No one is taking it away. You get it? But again, we should be able to learn one or two things. Because then we have died with anger. You know how you look at someone, if I was given chance, I was going to tear you apart. You know, because you have, you know, anger issues. And why? Because you were not assertive, or there was no chance to be assertive. Okay? And sometimes the feelings of victimization and the desires for revenge and doubting and questioning our own judgment. Do you know that that has also put us in places where we can't be assertive? Because when you are assertive, then you don't have to second guess yourself. But the moment you do not say what you needed to say, then you go away thinking, was I thinking right? was my judgment right? Well, you didn't say it. Say it so that we can correct you. Say it so that we can understand what you actually feel. And if that is, you have the wrong information, we will give you the right information. But because you didn't say it, now you still have a lot of second guessing and a lot of doubting your judgment and how you see things. That is why when people usually come for couple therapy, what I have are people at loggerheads. People who love themselves, but at loggerheads. You know you said this, you know you said this. And the other, you had it wrong. You have the wrong information. And the other, but I had it right. These are the words that you used. And they will be pointing fingers, nearly poking their eyes out. You know? And someone will be speaking. I'm like, it's her chance to actually speak. And sometimes I have to create a safe environment where they can be assertive. And sometimes I have to help them to be assertive. Because they didn't have that environment at home. Because they thought, if I say it like this, you will misunderstand it. But now I tell them you have a mediator. If I don't understand it, I will ask the second time and I will ask the third time. And I will re-echo it back to you to understand whether that is what you meant to mean, so that we can be able to go forward with the right information. And so many times, the husbands have been in the room and say, I've never heard about that. Because the way she has packaged it here, now she has been enabled to be assertive, but back home, she was not enabled to be assertive. Because she said, maybe if I say something wrong, I'm going to lose this marriage. To the extent, do you know that people have done us wrong and we have not been assertive to be able to demand or to even be in places where we can receive an apology? Why? Because we've been to bigenda. Ngabwe nkugambye weguya nnyo, so the other person knows, so he will do something wrong. Agamba akokoka, only that, it was too small. Do you know how many people have done? Don't tell me about how many people. This is about you and me, and it's about the standard that I hold in my life. So if you cannot uphold that standard, off you go. I am willing. You have to be willing to lose certain things to gain the life that you want. Because some people will cover you with only that is too small. Do you know how many people have gone through this? Do you know how many people? Don't bring me the statistics, because I'm not part of the statistics. I'm a human being that has feelings, and you did not choose everyone else in the world. You chose me, whether to work with me, whether as a spouse, whether as a fiancé. So now let's resolve this without any statistics, because whoever brings statistics is because they want to cover the wrongdoings that they did. So what if how many people are okay with it? I'm not okay with it, and I'm allowed to be alone and not okay with it. And if that leaves me alone, so be it. Okay? Because then, if people were doing tit for tat, I would also look for something that that other people are enduring, and I would do it to you, and then I will ask you, how does it feel? Only that, only small thing. There are so many men that are enduring it. That's so many men. So for anyone to belittle your feelings is also a form of disrespect. For anyone to belittle how you feel and your emotions is a form of disrespect. Okay? So we're still at assertiveness. Okay? Possessing any promises of God demands that we are assertive. The promises are promised. But is everyone living the promises of God? Wanji? But don't we all read them? Don't we even recite them? But when he says, come, that we may reason together, that even if your sins are red as crimson, they shall be washed to be white as snow. As in, he has given you a precondition of come. So it takes an assertive person to stand and go before the throne of grace. Okay? So whatever promises, when he says that obey and you will eat the good of the land, that means he has called you to be obedient. And the person who is assertive says, where do I start? What do I do? What is the sign of obedience? And what do I obey? Okay? So that is a person, but some of us, we read them passively, and you read it and you're like, and then you start praying about them, but there's no action attached to it. And then there are no promises, and then you start saying God is a liar. God is not a liar, and he will never be a liar. His promises are yes and amen. But they are yes and amen only to those that are assertive enough to reach out and tap into the promises of God. The people that are called by my name, that if they shall humble themselves and pray, I will heal their land. If you're living in an unhealed land, and that land can mean anything, can mean marriage, can mean children, can mean anything, if the precondition is to humble yourself and pray, the called that is already done, you are called, but to humble yourself and pray. To humble yourself is to know that I can't do it. It's not in my power. There is one that possesses all the power. But that assertive, do you know that even just prayer is assertiveness? Prayer? You're saying, I am putting my foot down, just like Mordecai said, tell all the Jews we are not eating food, okay? Let's rent our clothes, let's put on our sacks, but let's fall before God that he will save the Jews. That is assertiveness. That's knowing that I know where my power comes, but I'm not going to take it for granted and just say, oh, God, bring your fire, God, bring your fire. No, he knows that he must put a sacrifice on the altar and he must be able to call upon God and be able to fast. That is a form of being assertive. I know what I want and I know I have a standard about what I want. And until I get to it, I am not settling. Not settling for anything. Okay, so you got to know that you can't negotiate that which is holding you hostage. You can't negotiate that which is holding you hostage. If something is holding you hostage, say for example someone is holding you, do you know that it takes another person, I don't know whether you've seen the movies where another person comes to negotiate, but not the people that are held hostages are not the ones negotiating. Because half the time they're telling you to sleep down, they're telling you to face down, they're telling you, as in you don't have a right while you are still captive. That means you don't even have the power to be assertive. Have you seen people that have been held at ransom? You don't have the power to be assertive because the moment you become assertive, you can even tell, oh, you're yagendo soko kufa. I don't know whether you've watched those movies because they are trying to be assertive and so the bullet. But when a negotiator comes from out and they're able to say, you know what, set them free, give us your terms. Tell us, what do you want instead of the lives, in exchange for the lives that are inside there? And so many times they will be willing to negotiate. It will be tricky, but they will be negotiating for our life. And that speaks to the power of prayer that God comes to negotiate on your behalf. Because sometimes when you are bound in a situation, in tears, in not knowing, sometimes it's so hard for you to even negotiate. Because sometimes you even don't know what is the standard. Okay? So, no elevation without assertiveness. No elevation without assertiveness. Every elevation that is going to come into your life, it is going to take you being assertive to fight for what you deserve in order for you. As in, what you deserve, if you deserve more money, if you decided right now that you don't want to earn the kind of money that you earn right now, that you want to double that money or triple that money, that means you are assertive, you have a standard, you know what you want, and so that means you're going to start looking for avenues how you're going to triple that money. Then you will know that maybe my job can't give it to me. Maybe I must be able to tap into my passion. Maybe I must be able to start a business. So there is no elevation that comes, oh, I want to be elevated. And even when someone comes to negotiate their salary, I will want to ask, okay, what are they willing to do more? You get it? As in, this is not just a feather that someone, elevation, and they blind their eyes and then they just elevate you. No, that's not going to happen. Even for God, when an elevation comes, that means more is required of you. When an elevation comes, that means that more people are going to be looking at you. That means you're going to have more needs. That means you're going to impact more people. So there is no elevation that comes without assertiveness. And the reason as to why the assertiveness helps, that is why we are actually here. Do you know that this is a bold move of assertiveness that says, I want something and I want it so bad that I am willing, while everyone else akuba gudi kude, hey, weekend yetandi se tusimbude, abalala basimbula, you are coming to a place of knowledge. You are coming to a space of knowledge. So you are pressing demand for more, and you are saying, I need this elevation, but I don't just need this elevation, I must be equipped for this elevation. So that is being assertive, okay? So if anything is going to get better in your life, you have to make it better. If anything is going to get better in your life, you have to make it better. It falls on you, it's your responsibility. So if you think, I am going to just be here and you know, life is just going. Whenever I look at people that are so fragmented in life, I see people that were never intentional about anything. For example, have you ever gone to those either Lumbe or those, and you see men who are able-bodied, who would have been somewhere working and making a living. As in, you've seen, it can't be me alone. You have seen those people. I look at them and I'm like, this man, with the level of intelligence, Mukama Jeyamua, with the level, this is not where they would have been. And you look at them and you're like, this man is 30. This is the ripe age to make it, and you don't have. My mother has never seen a blackboard. But she's a pretty woman. Some of you have seen my mother. She's a pretty woman. Buayogera, you can never know that she even never went to school. As in, you see someone and you're like, hey, what happened? Naye, ngobulamu bwabwe bwalinga chombo chiseyeya ku nyanja. Ayagala yakola chi? Yasindika. But some of us, we were on that trajectory until we decided not anymore. And let me tell you, it does not take a mature person to make a decision. I think I made a sober decision while I was young that I wanted to be better in life. And I was very assertive. Otherwise, I usually make a joke that I would have been on my 5th marriage with 19 children. As in, if I was not assertive about my life. Because by P7, P6, P5, I looked like an adult. Some of them did not even have fear. They would even go through my mother. Never. And some of them, when they would come with, sometimes we don't even have food at home. Bazene shopping, supermarkets, you know, back then, those are later a fuso of things from the supermarket. They come from the front door, I get out from the behind door. And where have I gone? To an abandoned church somewhere, I remember vividly, to go and compose songs for the worship team. But I am running away from a man that has everything, has constructed her house, has everything. Anyone by the standards of the world, they are somewhere. But in my heart, I needed more. That was not satisfying. So I was like, I will go to an abandoned church somewhere that doesn't even have seats, and I will sit there the whole day and compose songs, and I will not go through home. I will go from that abandoned church to our church for the worship team, and I will teach people who are older than me the songs that I have just composed, and we will sing them the next day in church, and people will be so blessed. But because I had a standard, I was very assertive when it came to, you don't just speak anyhowly. Even when I was coming from a poor home, anyone that knows me, if you ever find anyone that knew me even when I was in school, they will tell you she was a no-nonsense person. No-nonsense person. I knew that poverty was temporary. I knew I was headed for greatness. I didn't know what greatness looked like, but I knew I was headed for greatness. So the power of believing in yourself gives you the power to be assertive. The power of believing in the abundance that God is about to bring. Chikuletera okunyoma ebiriwo kati bye wandirulunkanidde ebyandibadde bikumalawo, and you're like, you know what? I don't know what the abundance looks like, but I am willing to bet that let me lose this but gain the other. It's possible the other might be bad, but it's okay. When it comes, we will see. The journey will start there. So, assertiveness, okay? Make sure that you fix it. Make sure that you fix everything. Just like I said, if you want to make anything better, make sure that if you want anything to get better, make sure that you make it better, okay? And let's just go through this very quickly. Behaving assertively makes you gain self-confidence because it's a muscle. When you do it with one person, I usually have weird things and weird examples. And I think this is not the first time I'm saying it. There is a gentleman I invited into a meeting because they said they had something to do with me. I was even back in school. They have something to do with me. You know those people who used to praise themselves like, I'm in a relationship with Hilda. And I was like, come. I called other people. My sisters, one of my uncle, another person, and I sat them down. And I was like, I'm the introducer of this meeting, Atenze Nchigala. Kakati. I'm only addressing one person. Nebo Sigal, even if you remain on this earth alone. Alone like this. I will never get married to you. I will never be in a relationship with you. So I want that to sink in and I want that to be understood. Wow. So next time you're mentioning any name, my name should never be in your mouth. And like seriously. But that was me fighting for my future. That was me fighting for the promises that God promised me. Because some of us give up before the promises. Some of us compromise before the promises. Some of us are willing to make exchanges ezomugoyo before the blessing. You're like, I sell my birthright. No! I am not willing to sell my birthright. I am going to be assertive while at it. And whoever thinks they cannot stand me, it's okay. If you can't stand me, it's okay. You can stand other people. Look for the people that you can. Okay, so you gain self-confidence and self-esteem, and then you gain a sense of empowerment. The moment you're assertive, you gain a sense. Have you ever said no and you congratulated yourself? Yeah. You guys, you just don't know the fulfillment. You said no and you congratulate yourself. It just feels good. Where everyone would have expected, go with the flow, be patient, compromise. You say no to something, everything. I have seen people come to me. They come from houses that look like, not human beings. Some human beings look weird. But because I'm coming from the angle of, you get it? But some people come from houses, and they drive cars. And then some of them would tell me that maybe we're in narcissistic relationships. They will dilly-dally because I don't encourage anyone to leave their marriage or their relationships. I tell you, that is your decision. What I am here to do is to facilitate you, to actually help you better understand what you are in so that you can make your own decisions. And sometimes I will see that, by the way, this will never work. And I will never tell you that it will never work. I'll be like, it's not on me. It will be on to you when you make that decision. When you come to me, it will be for facilitation, for empowerment, and to be able to hold your hand. So some people have literally called me, as in when they came, they were in Porsche cars. You know these Benzes of 200 millions? And you know they park it down there and they're frustrated and they're what? And the next time they came on a border. And guess what? And they came, even the way they sat in the office, Bahati, I'm having the fun of my life. Konze, you're having the fun of your life over Nagamba, I am staying in a kazigo somewhere. I am sleeping on a mat with my 3 children. And I am the happiest woman on earth. And I'm like, this happiness. Because sometimes you... this happiness. But a person who does not understand that predicament will never understand. That you can walk away from something, that you can say no to something, no ulianga we kunkumulako ne mfufu ne we congratulating ngolinga gwe bataddeko chepe, ngolinga gwe bawade promotion. You're like, no, this happiness is another level altogether. You know happiness where you sleep like a child? Ngatoti dani agenda kugamba chani agenda kulangira bimeka. And you're like, you know what, wemba nina chikopo cha plastic chechange, nchinja chinywerako kumacha chinywereko legulo chinywereko, bobanga oyagala kunnangira nti olwokuba waguze glass, sigaza ne glass yo jinywereko. Tukulabe jene kutuusa. Okay? So assertiveness takes boldness and courage, embavu, okay? So you gain a sense of empowerment and you understand and recognize your feelings. You understand and recognize your feelings. You're like, this is why I did this. This is why I did that. If you go with the flow and compromise, sometimes you don't know, you cover up your own feelings. But when you are assertive, that means you're giving attention to how you feel. You're like, you know what? This does not feel like the right place. Okay? It's possible I could be getting everything that I need, but it doesn't feel like the right place. It could be that I'm hanging out with all the posh, nice, you know, the creme de la creme of the town, but I am misplaced. You get it? Okay? And then it's, you earn respect from others. Ha! I love that. I love that. The moment you are assertive, agambye chi? Mumuleke bwaba kyagambye. Why? Because even when people, well, there are people, do you know that people will start speaking on your behalf? When someone is coming to you with kwara kwara, they will be like, oh, no tebabi mutwalire ebyo. Ebyo no tebabikola in so and so's. Why? Because people have learned to respect you, that you stand for something. Okay? You have a standard. So they're like, oh, mutwalire chi, lugambo. Katuulire ebinaakola ki? Ebinaavaayo. Ugenda kulaba ovayo oli disappointed. Obadde ki? Agamba, owange, she didn't have time. Agamba, I told you. For things that are unimportant, she will not have time. But for something that is important, kiyinza n'okubanga kitono nnyo. Nga nawe tokirabamu importance. That for as long as it holds water, she will give it attention. Why have people spoken on your behalf? It feels sweet. For people to know your standard and proclaim it to others. I know Coach Fifi has proclaimed so many of my standards to so many people until some people felt like, what's wrong with this woman? She knows I'm a lover of people, but again, there are certain things like surprises. I don't work well with surprises. And that's because I'll be like, you know what? No, that's not for me. Even for the people that have tried to surprise me, I have literally called upon God to help me to even laugh and act surprised. Yeah, you know, so look at how some of you are looking at me. And yet some of us want chocolates and things like that. Okay, so you improve communication. The moment you start being assertive, you have improved communication, because when you practice it with that one person, you will continuously practice it with other people. So it's a muscle that when you start working on it, it keeps getting better, it keeps improving, okay? So you create wins in situations, win-wins, because there are people who expect that in every transaction, they are going to be the winners and you're going to be the loser. Do you know that humans are selfish? So whether it's a negotiation that you're negotiating with your human resource, because you are assertive, you're going to create a ring where it's a win-win for both of us, but no one is using the other. Whether it's a relationship, you will negotiate for a win-win. We are in this relationship to thrive, to be fruitful, and to be happy. If I don't feel happy, excuse me, it cannot go on. And if it's a marriage and I don't feel happy, I might as well talk about what is not making me happy. Because this boat ought to be rocked until it can't be rocked anymore. Sometimes you need to rock the boat harder so that, hey, next time the storms come, both of you will hold on to each other and you'll be like, the storm is coming, but it's not, you know, it's not taking us. But the moment you fear to rock the boat rocks you, okay? So you create a win-win situation, and then you create honest relationships. Honest relationships. Not one-sided relationships. No go rubege. Olokuba you have to compromise. Olokuba you have to understand. Olokuba you have to. So you're the one sustaining the relationship or the partnership but you're falling apart. And guess what? One day you're going to explode. And that partnership is going to be no more. Why? Because you were not assertive enough to handle the day-to-day issues the way they were supposed to be handled. And then, lastly, you gain satisfaction. Satisfaction, okay? I know that time is not on our side, but I know that by now you know when it comes to being assertive, where you stand, why you must do it, what you gain from doing it, and the things that you lose when you're not assertive. But the worst thing that you lose is you lose yourself. And that is the worst thing. You can lose anything in the world, anything. You can lose all the money, you can lose everything else, but you can never lose yourself, because you are the foundation on which God creates everything else. So the moment you lose you, you have lost everything. I love you guys. Bless you, bless you.